All right, everybody, after a long hiatus, we are back again at Repzotica with a new video for you guys. And it is on my new obsession, my favorite animals that I've worked with in probably the last 30 years or so. And it's the Australian blue-tongued skinks, the northern blue-tongued skinks. All the blue-tongued skinks are pretty cool, but there's just something about these northerns that make me a little crazy. So today we're going to go through what makes them so good and what are the pros, what are the cons. You know, they're probably not for everybody, but they are great animals. And we'll even touch on, the keeping, the care, and breeding, and availability, and maybe a few shout outs to some people that have helped me along the way with the skinks. All right, so as part of the care portion of our video, I'm going to show you our blue-tongued skink setups here. This is the back room of the store, and generally we use PVC or melamine cages that either are 4x2x2 or 3x2x2. I have a couple of custom sizes that were created to fit in some tight areas, but we have a dozen skinks now, and all real good specimens from different breeders throughout the country. And so we'll kind of just go through and show you how we have it done here. And these are very durable animals that live in a fairly harsh environment, so you don't need real elaborate setups, but you do need to give them ample space and ample requirements. And the requirements you really need are the right temperatures, the right substrates, hides, and a constant supply of fresh water. Blue tongues do drink a lot of water. It's crazy how much they drink. So a typical setup will look like this, and if you look down, you'll see almost all of them kind of carbon copies of each other. May not be the most exciting, thrilling looking setups you've ever seen in your life, but they are very functional for the skinks. So let's just kind of go through the basics. We have a hot side over here and a cool side over here. The skinks spend the majority of their time on the cool side. The substrate that we use basically is cypress mulch, and I keep that slightly damp underneath the hides. The rest of the time can dry out to mimic their semi-desert scrub environments. So always fresh water in the bowls. And some of the skinks will eat dry dog food, and the ones that will, not all of them will, but the ones that do, I keep a little bowl in there, also mixed with some repcal pellets. The bigger, better, more varied diet you have with these guys, the better off you're going to be. So if they'll eat a ton of different things, then you let them do it. So there, here you go with the setups. I also keep a couple of pieces of rock in each cage, because I noticed on a lot of the skinks, as they get older, their toenails get kind of big and curly. The rocks help wear them down, and that's the only function I have for them. But it's actually a good idea to help wear down those nails and keep them from getting too big. But if you see, again, as you see, all the cages pretty much are the same looking thing over and over and over. And there's one coming out for a little morning sun bath. And this one over here, she, I believe, is gravid, pregnant, whatever you want to call it. So we're hopeful for her. Very pretty animal. And another guy that we're growing up down here. Same thing. Same, very similar looking cages. And temperatures, basically we look at about 895 to 100 on the hot side. 75 watt basking bulb is good. And then I put a UV on the other side. There's a lot of argument whether it's needed or not. I would recommend it for at least animals under the age of 2. After that, the jury's out. I know people that keep them in tubs and they have no light whatsoever. I don't recommend keeping these animals in tubs, and I know a ton of the big breeders do it, and I know people do it all over the country. But if you want an animal with personality, most of my skinks, and you can see as I open up the cages, not flighty at all. In fact, most of my animals will actually come to me. So some of them enjoy getting petted, rubbed, all that good stuff. So, when you have one of these big bad boys, that's what you want. You want an animal that's a real pet, because the reason we're doing this video is to just demonstrate how amazing a pet this kind of animal is. So, all right, so we're gonna go into the blue tongue skinks, and I'm gonna talk specifically about the northern Australian blue tongue skinks. Um, why do we like them so much? Well, A, you get a very, very hardy, very durable animal. It really would take quite a bit of abuse to put one of these guys in bad shape. You don't need to feed them insects, although they eat insects like crazy, but it's just a small part of their diet. Their main diet can be dog food, and we use some of the high-grade dog foods with vegetables mixed in, so they get that. They'll also eat frozen vegetables, fresh vegetables. My guys are not too keen on chopped up greens or anything like that. If you want to make a gruel, mix dog food with some other things and chop up some greens and put it in there, it will get eaten. Truthfully, blue tongues will eat just about anything. In the wild, they're known to eat roadkill, so they're not the most discriminating animals that you can find. But I like them just for the fact that you can get so much different nutrient into their bodies, and the growth on these animals is astounding if you're feeding them right. All right, so as far as a pet goes, you know that we've kept just about everything, and bred so many different types of animals. I've been working with lizards for better part of 45 years. The blue tongue skink, you know, when it comes down to brass taxes, probably makes the best reptile pet there is. You get a nice size animal. It's relatively slow moving. When you watch them, they are slow moving, although they are capable of pretty fast dashes if needed. A very simple diet. You know, the nutrition factor is very simple. You know, the drawback might be it's a bigger size animal, and if you are space constrained, that might be a problem, because the minimum size cage you're going to want for one of these guys would be a 3-foot by 2-foot base, or better off a 4-foot cage by 2 foot deep. So that would, to me, is kind of really the only drawback. These animals don't even eat anything for about a 4-month period of the year. The young ones eat like you've never seen before in your life. And then once they get to about a year old, they really start to tail back, where you're only feeding them maybe 2-3 times a week. So, you know, they don't need a lot of maintenance. Very hardy, very durable. I have seen some of these animals, not in my possession, but you know, the stories out there of the injuries and the horrific accidents that have happened to them, and the animals, they get through it and they act perfectly fine. So you talk about a durability factor, very, very rugged, real solid animal. All right, got you excited now. So how do we get some of these guys? All right, availability on these animals is fairly limited. They are very habitual breeders in terms of when they do it and how they do it. So late spring, so anytime, keep your eyes open between April and through the rest of the summer, the breeders will produce these animals. Hopefully this year, we have 2 that we think are pregnant, so hopefully we'll start to produce them this year as well. But I want to go through, these animals are not really the kind of animals you want to go trying to find at a show. Everybody who knows me, I'm very anti-reptile show to begin with. You know, a lot of the breeders that are there are great people, phenomenal reptile people, really take care of their animals, know what they're doing, and then we got everybody else that's, you know, I'm not here to bash the whole reptile community, so let's get out of that. But I want to go through a few breeders that I have dealt with. I spent last year trying to acquire all these animals, and I was very picky about who I bought them from and where I got them from, and to make sure that the genetics were all a little bit different and whatnot. So I want to have a big shout out to Diana Mason. She is located in Pennsylvania. Stacy Michaels, who is in upstate New York. Ray Gerge has some great animals down in Florida, and Cheryl Matula, I think she's in Missouri. These guys, most of my animals are from from these breeders. Really good stuff. Diana in particular is the one who got me started. People that just really care for their animals. It's not just a business. It's the love of the animals and the knowledge that goes behind it. And if you get something from them, they're going to stand behind it, and you're really not going to run it. I didn't have any problems with anything that I got this year. Zero problems. So very, very durable animals. Get them from a good breeder. Those were some people that really got me started, and I would never have a problem buying anything from any of them. All right, so next segment, if you get lucky enough to get one of these guys, generally you're going to probably get a small baby, and the babies start off about this big, and I will tell you, they go from this big to about this big in about 3 to 4 months. It's astounding the growth that you can get on these animals. They will taper off after that. They top out in that 25, around that 24-inch range. You could have some specimens that are bigger and a few that are smaller, but they'll be around that size. All right, so now, you get the small animal, get it set up. You don't need something as big as this. You can probably start them in a smaller cage, but make sure you are putting them in larger cages as they get bigger, all right? Don't try and keep an animal in a small cage. I've heard people, if I keep them in a small cage, it's going to stay small. Bad, you're going to get growth problems and things like that, so don't go there. Make sure you give them all the space that they can handle. Diet, again, the young ones, I'm going to be honest with you, I feed just about every day. I probably do feed them every day. I want them to get that weight on, so when hibernation comes, they have enough body fat to get through that first winter. So a variety of insects, dog foods, cat foods, wet, dry, reptile pellets, dried insects. I mean, they eat it all. I'm going to be honest with you. Not my own, but I've seen these guys eat pizza and tacos before. They really, I think if you threw your shoe in there, they would chew on it after a few minutes. They're very inquisitive, and they have a real good set of taste buds, and just about everything seems to taste good to them. Also eat canned snails, earthworms. I mean, the sky's the limit with these eggs. They just, boy, they like everything. So feeding them should not be a problem. If you have a skink that just won't feed, my gut would tell me that there's some kind of problem with either the temperatures, maybe the animal itself. They don't tend to come with parasites because, again, you're going to be getting them from captive-born animals, which is another reason why we try to avoid some of the Indonesian ones. Those are almost all imported. Not all of them, but some of them, most of them are imported, and they can come in with a variety of external and internal parasites, which can lead to a lot of headaches going down the road. So, but you don't tend to run, again, there are exceptions to the rule, but you don't tend to run into problems like that with the northern blue tongues. All right, so, okay, we got the animal, kind of got an idea what to do with them. What's the personality going to be like? If you get a young one, they tend to be a little nervous, a little squiggly, and some of them can be downright, I've seen some ones that are downright aggressive. 2 or 3 of the ones that I first got that were raised in tubs were pretty aggressive. But it's real easy to break that within a couple of weeks. Hand feeding them, getting them in open cages so that they see you on a daily basis. These skinks are some of the smartest reptiles I've ever seen. They also do some of the dumbest things I've ever seen, which is kind of an anomaly, but that's the way they are. It's kind of what's enjoyable about them. They just brilliant in some ways and just complete knuckleheads in other ways. But they're generally, for the most part, kind of lazy lizards. They will run around their tank until the food gets in there. You can see this guy, he already had his food and he's done for the day. They very inquisitive. A lot of times when I open the cages or I was tapping or call their name, they'll come right over. What's up, buddy? Come here. And some of them really enjoy a good pet and handling, and other ones, will just kind of take off and, well, this guy's not in the mood right now. But, can't call that unfriendly. That was pretty good stuff. This girl right here. Hello, girl. This one's one of my more nervous ones, but she's still a good little booger. So, you know, you just, I mean, it's just a pleasure picking them up. The Northerns, I have not had a pee or poop problem where I've heard people that their skinks constantly pee or poop on them. I have 12, and I have yet to have that happen to me once. So that habit would be animal dependent, and there's no way to predict that from anybody. But I don't find that to be a problem at all. Like I said, I have a dozen of them, and I've never had it happen. So, you know, to each his own on those guys. All right, so sexing blue tongue skinks. When you get a baby from someone, you can forget about it. Not going to happen. There are things you can look for and hope for, but you cannot sex them when they're little. We will not pop them and push on it. You could possibly damage the animals. Popping is a way you can certainly sex an animal, but not recommended for any of the babies, and I won't do it, period. So you just get one and you grow it up and you find out what's going on there. There are some traits that I've noticed on female animals. They tend, this one is definitely not a guarantee, but they tend to be a little wider, especially right before the hind legs. The hind legs tend to be shorter than the males, and the tails tend to be shorter than the males. The heads tend to be a little smaller than the males, but there are exceptions to this rule. So a lot of times, the only way to figure that out is put them together when the season is right, and you'll find out very quickly who's a male and who's a female. Also, males will drop sperm plugs as early as 5 or 6 months. So you'll find these two little white squiggly things in the mulch or on a rock or wherever. When you see that, you got a male. Also, when they go to the bathroom, a lot of times they have to push to get it all out. The males will evert, and you'll see the hemipenes come out. So I've seen that on almost everyone. Every skink, just about every skink I have, I figured out what it was before we proved it. So I have one skink that kind of doesn't fit the mold, and I always thought it was a female, and it is a male. And that one actually went on to breed this year. So, but for the most part, the other 11 we kind of nailed right off the get-go. So if you work with a few of these animals, you can learn over time how to tell. But you know, the average novice who might be watching this, not going to happen. But the females eat a lot more than the males, I can tell you that. But not as babies. When they're babies, they all eat like crazy. So female appetites later on in males, that's another way of telling. But these are all roundabout ways. They're not, there's no perfect way. So when you order an animal from somebody, or me, or anybody else, unless you're looking for an adult-proven animal, you're not getting a sexed animal. It's not going to happen. If you order from somebody, oh yeah, it's a male, it's a female, and it's a little one like this, they're lying to you. There's no way they can tell. Very doubtful. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that you might see at a reptile show. So, doubtfully you're going to be able to get, and the same holds for the Indonesians as well. So, I really can't sex them as well. But later on in life, you know, they have certain traits that you can definitely see. All right, so one little quick hint I have, and it's my own personal thing. People do it differently. Little tools like this, little French fry cups or paper plates. And when I feed the skinks, basically, you know, their food can be really kind of gross and sticky. I'm not going to just throw it in the tank. I usually put it in the plate, in the cup, or on a plate, and I'll put it in the tank. And the skink will generally, when they see that or smell it, they will come running. You know, this guy, I don't know if he's going to come out right now, but if there was any food in there, trust me, he'd be running. He's smart enough to know there's nothing in there, but he's flicking his tongue, looking for, because he sees the cup. But a paper plate works well too. But sometimes, you know, the action will get some mulch in there, and so these cups have really proven to be an extremely helpful thing, keeping them from. It's crazy though. This is one of the few animals that actually can eat the mulch and pass it through without a problem. I've seen it happen over and over again. Their digestive system is amazing. I actually tested I had some mixed vegetables with a lot of corn in it. And we all know how corn goes through the digestive system. Well, not on a skink. My guys digested it, and you know, they didn't pass it in whole. So there's almost nothing these guys can't digest. It's just the stomach acids on these guys is tremendous. They also eat mice, small baby rats, things like that. They'll eat anything. And a lot of my bigger females, especially the breeding ones, have a real taste for mice. I would recommend you keep that to a minimum. A lot of lizards have adverse reactions to overfeeding mice. So, but breeding females, I don't really have too much of a problem feeding that to them. And again, I'm a bit of a wimp, so I don't really use the live ones. I have a freezer full of frozen that we thaw out and feed to them. So, and it makes for a lot less of a mess to clean up for. That's it. All right, some generalizations here. I've been working with the animals for a year now, so I'm not going to sit there and call myself the ultimate expert on there. I have a pretty good background on lizard keeping, but you know, not fully ready to call myself an expert on these guys yet. But I've really started, you know, in a year I've learned a lot, and I feel pretty comfortable with a lot of the things that they are capable of and the way they live. But a typical life cycle of these guys in a yearly scale is spring. You know, they're going to come out. They're going to start to get active again, and we're going to feed them very heavily. And they should continue to eat heavily and feed right through the summer. And you will notice in September, the animals start to back off and reduce. Even the younger ones slow down a bit. So September, they're going to start to slow down on their feeding. And some can even go in August, as early as August. But, you know, October comes and it's even going to get slower. By November, the animals are really getting sluggish, not doing much. We are reducing the temperatures a bit in the tanks. And by December, these animals are out, gone. They are in one of their hides, generally turn off the heat, or, you know, this store gets cold in the back room at night, real cold. So I just let it go that way, and then I bring some lower wattage heat on during the day to warm it up in the 70s in case, you know, the animal feels too cold. But for the most part, most of them don't even come out. They just get cold, and we have had the animals down in the upper 40s during the winter. So they're just torpid. They will not eat. They won't even look at food. They do nothing. And then you'll start to see generally, it could be as early as late January, but February is the magic month where a lot of the animals seem to come out. Yeah, that's nice. And they start to get active again, and that is breeding season. So February, our locks occurred in mid-February to late February, and that can last anywhere from I saw some guys breeding them in January. So, you know, January through March, you're going to get majority of your breeding activity. The animals generally won't eat. They're obsessed. The males, you'll notice, are pacing back and forth. My animals are very close proximity of each other, so not only can they visually see each other and they know who's who, but they can smell. They can smell the pheromones in the air, and once those pheromones are in the air, they are not going to eat. And now they're a little more active, so they do get some weight loss during this period. It's a little scary, but once mating occurs and everybody gets to do what they need to do, you do start to see them feed again a little bit, again in March, and then they really start to get the feedback on as the months go along. So, you know, your animal is really awake for the most part from February through November. The other remaining months, gone. And you should keep them cool during that period. All right, quickly, and this may be somewhat repetitive, but I'll go through it again because people are always asking questions about these things. Lighting, I believe, it's my personal opinion, the animal should be kept out in the open, not really tubbed out. The big breeders do their thing, and these guys really do some great stuff with them, so hard to argue that point. But I think you get a much more social, calm animal when you keep them out in the open. from a heating standpoint, I use your standard Exoterra or Zoomed heat bulb. And again, you know, anywhere depending on the ambient temperatures that you want to get, from as low as a 25 watt if you're in a warm room to a 75 if you're in a cool room, and it'll get you your 95 degree hot side. And then we have fluorescent lighting over the rest of the tank, or in another corner. And the cool side should run around 80 degrees. Could be maybe even upper 70s. They do like it a little on the cool side, but they also like to come out and warm themselves up. So, you know, 80 to 100. If you can get that swing in your tank, you're in good shape. There's a big argument whether they need UV or not. My feeling is if it's a diurnal animal and it's going to come out and bask, you should get UV. So it's just the way it works there. Things I don't use UV with would be snakes, and not even all snakes, but some of the snakes and geckos and things that aren't really going to expose themselves to the light anyway. So, and if you really wanted to be on the cheap side, maybe you just want to invest in the UV for the first 2 years, because most of the growth, they will grow their whole lives, but in very small millimeters. Most of their growth is going to occur in the first 2 years, much like a bearded dragon. So have it over them, get good hard bones, well-formed bodies and faces and things like that, and blah, blah, blah. You know, what you put in, you get out. So don't skimp on that kind of stuff. It's not mandatory, but, you know, you know, if I'm selling animals someday, I feel a lot more comfortable going to put UV over them. So I like the linear tubes as opposed to the corkscrews, but for these guys, both will work. Alright, so we got the lap lizard out, and truthfully, these guys are lap lizards. We're going to kind of summarize everything we went through today. My feeling, if it's not the best reptile pet out there, it's in the top 5. No ifs, ands, or buts. You get a lap lizard, you get quite a beautiful lizard, you get some size, and again, those people that are really anti the whole bug thing, this is an animal that you probably could, it would take a little work and a little smarts, but you could raise them without it. My God, insects only represent a fairly small part of their diet. So price-wise, northern blue tongues are not going to come cheap. So if you're looking for a $75 lizard, you can kiss these guys goodbye. It's not going to happen. The average blue tongue starts around $300 to $400. A couple of my animals I paid over $1,000 for. So depending on color, genetics, lineage, those kinds of things, they can go pretty expensive, up to about $2 grand. So your average, I mean, this is a pretty average looking animal. She's a white line, so she's going to get whiter and whiter as she gets older. It's about a $400 animal. Okay, some of the ones that I have, the red and orange and things like that, they can go exceedingly more. Depends on the breeder, depends on what they charge. But you know, understand the price on these guys is driven from captive breeding. It's a pretty expensive facility to put together to house them. So there's a lot that goes into them. When my guys are feeding, they go through one of those big cans of dog food a day, plus insects, plus pellets, plus fruits and vegetables. The food, the food bag can be pretty expensive, the food bill. So, there's a lot that goes into them. So when you do want to sell one, you don't want to give it away. So, expect anywhere from, I've seen them as low as $300, but anything you would get that somebody is selling that would be less than that would either be, would probably be, a Craigslist job where the animals have been taken care of, or there's something wrong with it. So, a real healthy, vibrant, good-looking, good-colored skink is going to cost a little more than that. But that's, the animals live 20, 25, 30 years. They live a long time. So it's a big investment, but totally worth it, because if you want a reptile pet that just really is just like I said, a lap lizard, friendly, inquisitive, easy to keep in my estimation, very rewarding animal, the northern blue tongue skink is the way to go, without a doubt. So that's it. Signing off. Great to see you guys again. Enjoy the video. If you're looking to get a skink, hope this helps. Shoot me any messages that you might have if I didn't answer what you were looking for. All right, bye.